How you doing, everybody? And welcome to this episode of Fantasy Philosophy. Today we're going to talk about the Week 6 recaps, see what went right, what went wrong, what was surprising, and what was, same old, same old. So I'm Paul. I'm here with Ann on my right and Peter on my left. And, let's just get right into it this week. This week, there was many things that you could say were really surprising and you didn't know what was going to happen. And let's start right at what I think is the most surprising thing of all week. The Giants upsetting the Broncos. I mean, wow. That defense is tough, man. And Eli went in there like he didn't give a about anything. He just went right in there, drove down the field, great run game. So let's talk about Eli's number one target of the game, okay? Evan Ingram, all right? 5 for 82 and a touchdown, and he's having about 7 targets per game. And is he in your top 5 tight ends for this year?
To be honest, he might finish at the top of the top 10, I would say.
Top 10, okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't say top 5 because again, the Giants lost all their weapons. So all the attention is going to go to Evan Ingram. So I would say, definitely start him in your lineups if you don't have anything better. The tight end position is kind of like you kind of play whoever's a hot hand.
Right.
So I think he could start in most leagues. However, I don't think he's going to finish as high as we think.
Okay. And, the other big guy in the game, Orleans Darkwa, 21 rushes for 117 yards and an extra reception for 13. I mean, he looked really good, Pete. I mean, everyone was picking up Wayne Gallman a couple weeks ago, thought he was going to be the guy, but Orleans Darkwa, what do you think about him going forward?
No, I think he's definitely the guy. He definitely got the volume. He couldn't get a touchdown, he couldn't get in the end zone, but he didn't have to with 100 yards plus.
Looked good.
I mean, it's all about volume in fantasy, and he's getting it. So
He is getting it. And again, Denver's defense letting up a lot of points, looking very poor.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I think defenses are tough, so I think you got to roll with them going forward. But, be cautious. They could be a matchup play going forward. I mean, I don't know. I say they're still an every week start.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to touch upon in this game is the injuries. Demaryius Thomas, he had a little bit of an injury, a little banged up, but he actually has played almost every game in the last few seasons, so I think he'll be okay. But the big injury, Emmanuel Sanders, I know you have him on your fantasy team, man.
Yeah.
What are you doing to replace him? You going to grab someone? You moving someone around? What's your plan?
I mean, on my team, I actually picked up a couple guys. I have, some wide receiver depth.
Right.
But he kind of is replaceable. I don't like to think of him as a top wide receiver. He does put up like top 20 numbers, but he's very consistent. But I don't think you're not going to be missing much from Emmanuel Sanders. I would pick up someone like a Jermaine Kearse or an Eric Decker, someone like that could give you, boom or bust kind of play, because why not risk it in that position?
Exactly. There's not going to be a hole in your lineup from him being on the bench.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
Good. So let's move on. All right, let's try to bounce around to some of these games. No particular order, but let's see hit some of the main points of some of these games.
Okay.
Another big surprising game that I think, you guys might think so as well. Arizona versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the biggest surprise of the week, Adrian Peterson, getting traded last week from the Saints to the Cardinals for a 6th-round pick. A 6th-round pick for this guy, and he has a day. A day, Peter. I know you're a big fan of AP. You've always had him on your fantasy teams. What do you think about him going forward? Is he a viable option?
You know what? I drafted him, and I dropped him, picked him back up, and dropped him again, and I am regretting it like nothing else. He is going to be the guy there. He has the volume, like I said, with Darkwa. He got in the end zone twice. He's going to be the goal line back. And the guy behind him, Ellington, had a goose, 0, in every category. So there's no competition there. That's his backfield, and he's definitely still got the talent to be a very viable option.
All right. So Peter thinks you should stick with him, man. You think he's a buy high candidate, or you're sticking with him too?
All right. I'm sticking with him until David Johnson gets back.
Now that would be interesting.
That would be interesting. I feel like everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, they're gonna split." They're not gonna split. It's David Johnson's backfield. He's gonna be healthy. He's gonna come back. Yeah, David. AP might come in there. Sometimes change of pace, give David Johnson a rest, especially in the beginning because he just came off an injury.
Right.
But I think David Johnson is the head of that backfield.
Yeah.
So you have AP for another good month, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the one guy that would get a huge hit if when David Johnson comes back is Andre Ellington. He's been a great PPR flex play for the past few weeks, scoring 10 or more. And last week he gets 0. So I think going forward, I think you got to keep an eye on that guy. I mean, the game script was kind of in a way where they weren't throwing the ball as much, although Carson Palmer Huge game, 283 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's second most in passing yards, only behind the GOAT, Tom Brady. Now, Ann, I know you have him on your fantasy team, but is he a start for the rest of the year? I mean, he has been having some good games.
So personally, I actually have him as my backup. I used him, in a bye week case with Russell Wilson. So I think he's a good bye week and streaming play.
Okay.
But I also think you could rely on him, especially if you have an Aaron Rodgers and he went down.
Definitely.
I think if you get a Carson Palmer, that's as probably best as you're gonna get unless you trade for someone else. But I would say Carson Palmer could ride the bench, and then he could, he might be matchup based, more matchup based.
Matchup based is definitely
the
way to go with Palmer.
Right.
So let's go to the other side of the ball here and talk about the Bucs for a little bit. All right, Jameis Winston getting hurt early on. Ryan Fitzpatrick coming in, almost bringing them back. Pretty good comeback for him, but the person that I'm most surprised about, Mike Evans, 3 for 95 with that 1 touchdown. A little misleading of a stat line.
Mm-hmm.
But he does have 10 targets per game.
Yeah.
Been a little shaky. Peter, what do you think about Mike Evans and Jameis Winston combo going forward?
I mean, Winston, we got to see what's going to go on with the injury. But, I think he was overhyped at the beginning of the season. He's really not living up to it. But he's not somebody that you're going to get rid of or bench. If he's playing, I would play him. And Mike Evans, 8 targets last week. And that's with Fitzpatrick. He's the guy to throw to. He's the big target.
Yeah.
He's going to get the volume, so you can't get rid of any of these guys. You got to stick with them.
All right, and the last guy I want to talk about, Doug Martin, Muscle Hamster. Doesn't like Muscle Hamster, though. He goes by Dugginator now, all right? So we will only refer to him
muscle hamster.
on
I don't
this
care
show
what you
as
say.
the Dugginator.
He's the muscle
all
hamster.
right? So our father who ordered a hamster, Dougie be thy name, okay? 14 for 53 and a touchdown, also had a 2-point conversion. So pretty good fantasy day.
Yeah.
Especially for someone who stashed him on their bench. They probably have another running back, and he's probably the RB2, maybe even a flex if you're lucky. So,
yeah.
Good matchup so far. So let's look for him to continue that going forward.
Yeah.
Let's bounce around to another game. Pretty surprising game for Jets fans. Jets versus Pats in New York, in New Jersey. Good game from McCown. That's a little bit of a matchup-based play there. I mean,
you could play anybody against that defense.
That's what I'm saying. So, but the two things that I think you should really focus on the Jets side of the ball, Austin Seferian-Jenkins having a little bit over 7 targets per game, and he should have had 2 touchdowns that game. I mean, we're not going to dive into that. All right, we're not referees. That's not our job. We're talking about fantasy football here. So, what do you think about him going forward, Peter? Do you think he's a top 5 tight end? We already talked about Evan Ingram. Where does he stack up against Evan Ingram?
I mean, I would put Ingram above him just because I trust the quarterback, Eli, more. Plus, I didn't really get to weigh in on that. I think, you can't not cover the receivers. You're still going to have to put the corners on the receivers and have the linebacker on Evan Ingram, who's his skill set is just he'll be a viable option for the rest of the season. He's the only target. But anyway, I think Seferian-Jenkins, he had 11 targets against the Patriots, which is huge. He gets all the red zone looks. If he scores that touchdown, he almost has the same stat line as Gronk. A couple points lower, but if you can keep up with Gronk, that's big.
It's pretty special.
He's somebody you want to have in your line.
Definitely. Now, the other guy that was kind of took a turn for the worse in this game, someone who we thought would have been the starting running back in this game, Elijah McGuire, 10 carries for 22 yards against this subpar defense. Mm-hmm. But we had a new guy not a new guy, but
rather old guy.
The old guy, yeah, actually. Matt Forte, 9 carries for 22 with also the 60 receiving yards. So, and is he the guy now? Is Elijah McGuire someone that we can just drop automatically, or what do we do there?
I wouldn't say drop automatically. I mean, Powell is still... I'm not sure about his injury status, but I don't think Powell's good to go just yet. Okay. I really do think that Forte and Elijah McGuire are going to keep splitting. I feel like Forte, he has that good receiving game. So he was used more in the receiving game during that game because of just the way the game flow was. I mean, I was watching that game because I'm a huge Jets fan, and McGuire, he just didn't look too good running up the middle. Yeah. And I feel like that's what they used him for. They really didn't use him in the passing game, which Forte was used in.
Right. Okay? McGuire, the last 2 weeks, has double-digit touches each week, and combined in standard has 5.2 fantasy points. I mean, for me, I wouldn't even have him on my roster, especially with Powell coming back.
You would drop him.
I actually agree with you. I don't think he's rosterable anymore, especially with Matt Forte coming back. I think he's the guy.
Forte came back good. 8 catches.
Yeah.
Right.
Is Forte durable, though? That scares me.
You know what?
Powell's hurt. Forte not durable.
Either way, I mean, with none of them playing, only McGuire last week or
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, still, he got like three points standard.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's not somebody you can rely on, no matter who's in the backfield.
I hear you.
Okay, now the other side of the ball, I don't think we need to talk about it too much. Tom Brady had a decent day. Could have been a little bit better.
Yeah.
The only thing that kind of surprised me a little bit was Chris Hogan. Only had one reception in that game. Not a good game for him. But it is surprising. But I think he'll be right on track. Look for that Patriots offense: Brady, Hogan, Cooks, maybe even Deion Lewis, who scored a touchdown in this game, to kind of bounce back against the Falcons. But Deion Lewis, he did get an opportunity because Mike Gillislee did not. Oh, he did fumble, actually.
Yeah, Belichick.
Right,
but before he fumbled, Deion Lewis had about 10 carries.
Yeah.
So those first 10 carries were Deion Lewis's.
Yeah, but without that fumble, I think that's Gillislee's goal line carry.
That's it. That's because with the Patriots offense, whoever has that goal line carry, that's who you want.
Exactly. Blunt last year, you saw that.
So do you spend a waiver wire pick on him? If you're a top 3 waiver wire pick, you go out for him or what?
You know what? Honestly, that New England backfield is very unpredictable.
Hard to predict. Yeah.
I would kind of just stay away from them unless you need a bye week kind of starter. But yeah, I would stay away from that whole backfield. I think the only one you could really start is Gillislee, and I hope they trust him again. I feel like just that one fumble shouldn't warrant him not getting any touches anymore. But
Right.
I feel like he is the goal line back. Pete, you're right. That should have been his carry if he didn't fumble. So, you know what? Gillislee is the guy to trust. Deion Lewis and James White are kind of used interchangeably. So that backfield's kind of a mess. I would stay away.
Yeah. All right, so let's get through this. Let's get through this to go to the Jags versus Rams. All right. Not too many surprises. Lenny Fournette and Gurley both have decent games. Lenny does get a little banged up at the end, but I think he'll be okay.
Yeah.
Gurley, 120 yards. Nothing new there for Gurley.
Peace.
Just two little pieces I'd like to point out here. Marquise Lee, 5 for 83 with 17 rushing yards, okay? His next matchup is against Indianapolis. Is he startable this week?
The Colts secondary is not looking good. I mean, Eric Decker, who came out of nowhere, had 80-plus yards against them. So,
Yeah.
with Mariota banged up as well, I mean, I would start him, as a flex if you need him. If your wide receivers are weak, I would say he's a wide receiver 3. I would have some confidence starting him.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I would say a good substitution for Emmanuel Sanders.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
Good point. Okay. The other big surprise, maybe not a surprise actually, Sammy Watkins going up against that pretty tough secondary in Jacksonville. He's had one game in which he had over 6 fantasy points in standard scoring. And, of course, he had that one big game against San Francisco. And he's had 4 games under 4 points.
Yeah.
Is this guy even worth a spot on your roster at this point?
I think he's worth a spot, definitely, because it's Sammy Watkins. His ability is there. I don't know. I guess him in that offense ain't really clicking. Maybe I would try packaging him in a deal, in a trade deal or something. His name still warrants some value. His numbers might not be there, but his name is just very flashy. And for an inexperienced player, a fantasy player, I would exploit them and try and get something for Sammy Watkins or package him up in a deal.
Awesome. Let's move past that game. Let's go to Green Bay versus Minnesota. Obviously, the biggest news in football. Aaron Rodgers goes down, expects to miss around 7 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
He's already had this injury 3 years ago, and I'm hearing that if you have the same injury, it takes longer. I'm no doctor, but that's what I've heard. That's the news. So obviously, we're not running out to go pick up Brett Hundley.
No.
But let's talk about the other weapons in the Green Bay's offense. Okay, Jordy Nelson, Devontae Adams, Randall Cobb, Ty Montgomery, Aaron Jones. All right, Ant's giving us the play-by-play here.
Yeah.
Let's start with you then, Ant. Who do you look to drop in value, and who do you look to possibly jump in value?
I would say all the wide receivers, Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson, and Devontae Adams. I say all of them drop in value. Now, Hundley has to rely on someone. I think Martellus Bennett kind of drops a little too. The running backs, though, I think is going to save them. Okay? I think if they could establish a running game with Aaron Jones and then kind of work in Ty Montgomery into the passing game, dumping out of the backfield, nice safety blanket for Brett Hundley, I think they could get their offense rolling and it would start opening up, looks for the other wide receivers. But I feel like everyone in that offense takes a dip except the running backs. I don't know if you guys agree on that.
Pete, I hear you're making some noises over here.
I agree for the most part. I think Devontae Adams, he got the red zone look from Hundley. I see, he had another big catch. He likes him. I think he's the guy he's gonna go to. He's his favorite target in that offense, I think.
Yeah.
And I agree with Jones. I think he'll get more carries. And Martellus Bennett, Marty B, I think he'll actually, he wasn't doing anything with Rodgers, but I think this is a chance for him to get more reception.
That safety blanket.
And big target in the middle of the field in the red zone. I think maybe he gets in the end zone more than he did, with Rodgers, surprisingly.
Okay.
All right, interesting. I actually think if you have, if you need help at the wide receiver position, you're throwing everything at the Jordy Nelson owner to get him this week. His value last time Aaron Rodgers was hurt dropped from 18 on average to 15 on average, so not that big of a difference. But I think if you can go out and buy him, if the Jordy Nelson owner is panicking, I think you go out and try to buy him as low as you can. I think he's going to retain his value. Also, the other guy that I think will have a somewhat of an uptick is Ty Montgomery. I think he's going to be the guy out of the backfield to catch some passes. Going to be that kind of drop-down guy for him. And I honestly think that his numbers, I know they've been shaky of late, but they'll get back to normal. And again, look for Aaron Jones to get a lot of carries as well.
Cool.
So the other side of the ball, all right, we had McKinnon and Lat Murray. All right, giant difference between the two, okay? McKinnon, 16 for 69 and a touchdown and also 70 receiving yards. Lat Murray, pretty much just fading out, fading away.
Yeah.
And, he was never too special of a guy in Oakland. He scored touchdowns, though. And now McKinnon's getting the goal line carries. So,
I was gonna say,
one, is McKinnon a top 10, 12 running back with the rest of the season? And is Lat Murray playable?
I'm gonna say Murray is not playable.
Okay.
I wouldn't rank McKinnon that high. We've seen him take this role in the past couple of years with AP banged up, and he hasn't performed like he is this year. Which we don't know what to expect at this point. It's small sample size. We're gonna have to see going forward if he can keep it up. But yeah, Murray, I would maybe put him on the bench because little guy McKinnon could get hurt going through the tackles like that, and Murray, he's talented. He'll be the guy. I thought he was going to be the guy. It's very surprising to me that McKinnon is, and I like McKinnon, and I do not like Murray. So that's.
And what's your take on it?
So I agree with Peter. I don't really like Latavius Murray. I feel like he will get his goal line carries at some point. I feel like they're just riding the hot hand in Jerick McKinnon. However, Jerick McKinnon is going to retain that value of a pass-catching running back. He's also 25 years old. So I think, I was doing some research. I think he is in the prime of his career. So he's looking great, offensively. And they even have him during, passing downs. And he's pass blocking, too. So they trust McKinnon. At 25 years old, he's in the prime of his career, and he's getting this opportunity with Dalvin Cook out. I presume that once Dalvin Cook comes back, he's going to take that role. But I think McKinnon fills in for the Cook role way more than Latavius Murray does because he's just not elusive. He's just not Murray.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah.
Last thing. Yes or no? Do you spend a roster spot on this man? Teddy Bridgewater.
Yes. If I have Aaron Rodgers, yes.
If I'm struggling at the quarterback position, why not?
All right. He started practicing this week. Look for him to come back. All right. So Chiefs versus Steelers. Another surprising game. Steelers come and win that game, go into Arrowhead and win that game. Mm-hmm. All right. Le'Veon Bell, obviously business as usual. Kareem Hunt even had a good day, even though he had a good day for a running back. I mean, he had a lot of receiving yards.
Yeah.
Kind of salvaged his rushing game.
Definitely.
But I'd like to talk about two players here. First of all, Big Ben. Does he have his confidence back? And would you start him this week?
I wouldn't start him. I mean, that touchdown for the game, it should have been a pick that AB caught.
I agree.
And Big Ben, I don't want him on my team.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Sam?
Yeah, Sam. I don't like that Bengals defense against Big Ben. I think they'll take advantage of him and get at least 2 picks.
For sure.
Yep.
Okay. 49th ranked wide receiver, drafted as a wide receiver too. 1 touchdown with 1 game over 5 points in standard scoring. What do you do with him for the rest of the season, Martavis Bryant? We had the trade rumors. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. Looks like he's going to stay after he tweeted back and saying he wants to stay. So, Pete, what are you doing with him?
For me, I keep him on the bench. I don't want an AP situation. When you drop him and, who knows, he could get traded and he could be a big threat somewhere else. They're not using him, but I would bench him.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Same opinions
bench.
over there?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Miami versus Atlanta. Okay. Another upset here, and actually called this upset, so I got to give you credit where credit's due.
Thank you.
Okay. Big game for Jay Ajayi, 26 rushes for 130 yards.
Yes.
And Peter, I think you have a good stat on that.
Yeah, so the stat is that if Ajayi touches the ball 20 plus times, the Dolphins win the game. So the last 2 weeks he touched it 20 plus, and they won. And you got to realize, if you're the coach, you got to realize the formula, and you got to feed the guy. Even when they're down in the game, they fed him, and they got back, and they won the game against a high-powered Falcons offense. And I love to see that. He's my guy going forward.
So now let's go. We're gonna talk about this more in another video going forward. But is Jay Ajayi someone that you're buying now? Is he someone that you predict to outperform here?
I would say yes. I mean, honestly, I think his value kind of stays the same because that Miami offense really isn't clicking, and they kind of have to rely on him. But I don't think he's gonna have a crazy season. If he puts up these numbers, I think you get the value that you get from him.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, totally. If you think you could go out and get him and it'll improve your team, definitely. But other than that, I think his value kind of stays the same.
Okay. On the other side of the ball, we had Matt Ryan. Pretty shaky of a game. All right, he's not really living up to what he was drafted as a top 5 quarterback. Definitely not there. He's not even in the top 20 going right now.
Yeah.
All right. The other guy that's probably frustrating as hell, we all know it, Julio Jones, okay, his 100-yard game this season. What do you do with those guys? Are they going to be the same going forward? Are they going to bounce back? Pete, what do you think?
You know, they get the Patriots this week, and that's the best thing you could want. You know, right now that defense is trash. You know, anybody could. They're averaging like over 400 passing yards, and I'm sure Julio is going to go for at least 100, and he'll probably get in the end zone this week. Big
Hopefully.
game from them too. I like them going forward.
And what do you think?
Matt Ryan, there's better options out there. I mean, for this week, I think the matchup is great.
Yeah.
You play him.
Yeah.
But I would play a Carson Palmer over him week to week, to be honest.
He's got the Jets next week too. You know, he's got a good schedule.
Right. And then I would say Julio, you're always going to start him. No matter
Always,
what.
yeah.
You start your starters. Julio Jones is a top 5 pick. You'd be dumb not to start him.
Now, how many weeks with this continued, amount of production, subpar games, and when do you get to the point where you're like, I'm done with it, can't do it anymore, can't start him anymore? How many weeks does it take?
You know, he's yet to eclipse 18 fantasy points, which is big, but I don't know. If he doesn't get it done against the Patriots, then that's it.
That's it for you?
I would be fed up, and he wouldn't be in my starting lineup.
So
anymore.
one more week. All right. And you have similar views? Or?
Nah, you got to ride Julio Jones. You really do. And I think the matchups, I think one of his coaches even said they're disappointed with the amount of targets he's getting.
Right.
So I feel like he's going to have an uptick in targets, and that's just going to mean, more points. It's got to.
Gotcha.
They have a good schedule coming up. I think you roll with him, and I think he's going to produce for you.
Okay. All right, quickly, let's go to Bears versus Ravens, okay? Pretty normal as usual. Not a very exciting game. But Jordan Howard, 36 for 167. So, obviously, he's a ride or die running back. No questions there. But the big question mark, I should say, is from Tariq Cohen, 14 for 32 and 41 receiving yards. He's definitely playable in PPR, but is he still playable in standard leagues?
Talking about Tariq Cohen?
Tariq Cohen.
I don't think so.
You
I
don't
really
think so?
don't. No, Howard. A lot of Howard fantasy owners were very, very scared about Tariq Cohen. But he's going to be in the games where they're going to feature the passing game,
Right.
and I think that's not going to be often at all.
Okay.
So if they're down, they're going to feature him. They're going to feature the passing game. But if they have a comfortable lead, which they did, I think they were leading like 10-0 in the beginning. They were riding Jordan Howard until the end of the game,
Right.
and then that's when you wouldn't see Cohen.
Yeah.
So they got to be behind, and I think they'll be behind, 50% of the time. So he might be good, but
Okay.
I would say Howard's the guy there.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Pete. Yes or no? Ravens offense. Do you want anyone?
Only guy I would want would be Javoris Buck Allen. Only
Yeah.
for the fact that the volume's there. He's involved in the passing game. The other backs, they don't look good. He's somebody I would think about starting, but I would definitely roster him. Other than that,
Okay.
besides Ravens defense.
Yeah, Ravens defense, I would say too,
Okay.
and Buck Allen.
All right. Oakland versus LA Chargers. Tough game to watch. A lot of bad plays. Amari Cooper just not doing anything again. I mean, nothing new there.
Mhm.
Keenan Allen 5 for 45. But the big I guess uptick was Hunter Henry. His snaps are increasing in every single game, 5 for 90.
Yeah.
Do you see him as the top 10 tight end for the rest of the season?
See, I might be a little biased because I have Hunter Henry in every single one of my leagues. I thought, I was really high on him going into the season, and I stuck with him through his gooses. His goose eggs are they're gone. I feel like they're in the past. He's the past 3 games he's been great. I would ride with him. I think he's a top 10. Maybe move into top 5, but maybe that's shooting a little too high. I think they're relying on him a lot more.
Okay.
I think Antonio Gates is kind of being flushed out now that
Right.
he has his touchdown record. We could sit him down.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you're talking about Hunter Henry. Let's go to the Oakland side of the ball. Derek Carr, not a very good game. What do you do with that Oakland offense going forward? Play anyone?
I don't really like anybody besides Crabtree. I mean, Crabtree's going to get in the end
Right.
zone. He's going to get the volume. I'd play Crabtree, but besides that, unless you don't have a better option for Carr, you might have to start Carr in some leagues.
And
But
Lynch?
Marshawn, I don't like him. He had 13 carries, and we put up, I think, 66 yards or something like that. I mean, there's no volume, and even when he gets the volume, he's not putting up enough, and he's not getting in the end zone with his huge
Big
for him.
volume guy, huh?
Of course.
Pete's the volume guy. All right, we got 3 more games to go through here. Quickly, Houston and Cleveland. Houston did their thing, obviously. Deshaun Watson, DeAndre
Fuller.
Hopkins, Will Fuller again. Will Fuller, interesting stat here. He scores a touchdown on about 60% of his receptions.
154 yards and 5 touchdowns in 3 games. Come on.
But Pete, what's not there, Pete?
The volume is
not
Pete
there.
is the only guy
Me
without the
and
volume
Pete
that
kind
I
of
love.
fight over this all the time. He's boomer bust.
He
He
is
needs to
boomer
get
bust.
that long touchdown, or else he'll have nothing.
You say he's
and the
boomer
past
bust,
3,
right?
the past
Where's
3
the bust?
games.
I want to see the bust.
All right, I was
All
gonna
I'm
say the
saying is
past
bust.
3 games that's happened. That's not gonna happen.
When's
That-
the bust
that
coming?
is not
When's
a
the bust coming?
reliable
You think the
fantasy.
bust is coming against Seattle?
Yes,
I
totally
disagree.
against Seattle. I think.
tend to
Are we
disagree.
making a
The
bet
bust-
here? Are we making a bet here?
Put it on the board.
Let's make a bet here.
Put it on the board. Let's go.
Let's make a. Kirk, is he back on track going forward? Is he a top 10 quarterback for the rest of the year?
For sure. I would
Yeah.
rather have him
Yeah.
I'd say
than a
so
lot of
too.
other guys.
All right, on the side of the San Francisco Bowl, besides Carlos Hyde, okay, now we have C.J. Beathard coming in. Coach says he's the starting guy for the rest of the season. The rest of the season might as well. They're what do they have? No wins, and they still have no wins, right?
Yep, no wins.
Yeah.
So, do you want anyone on that offense besides Hyde and maybe Matt Breida as his handcuff? Do you want any of those pass catchers on your lineup?
I would say Garcon. He gets his looks. He gets his targets. I would totally say him. I really like that tight end Kittle.
Kittle.
He's not
Same
bad.
college as Beathard.
Oh,
He likes
really?
him, Yep.
Oh,
They've been
okay.
guys since college.
See, that might be the combination. You never know. If you're thin on tight end, if you're looking for some guy to spark, Kittle might be the guy. Might as well add him. Why not? So yeah, I would.
And they're going against a pretty bad Dallas defense next week, so Kittle could be a
Look
start.
for a shootout.
pretty holy.
Look for a shoot. I mean, you never know. C.J. Beathard looked okay against Washington, but let's
and
see.
that's
He
a pretty
competed.
decent pass
Yeah,
defense
He
too.
competed.
He did
Yeah.
compete. He did compete. All right, last game, Monday night game. Okay, we had Tennessee versus Indianapolis. All right, came down to the wire there. Obviously, there was a big breakout play at the end to make the game seem like it wasn't that close, but it was a very close game
Yeah.
throughout most of the game until the last 2 minutes. So, the 2 big guys on Tennessee's side, I want to point on Derrick Henry and DeMarco Murray. Both got into the end zone. They both looked pretty good, although Derrick Henry got those garbage time points. He had 13 garbage time points in the last minute.
Yeah.
Are we still sticking with Murray going forward? What are we doing, Pete?
I think you have to.
Yeah.
I mean, you draft him in the first round, most likely. He's the guy. He got in the end zone. They like him running through the tackles. And watching the game, he looked slow at the start, but then as he went on, it looked like he got stronger. He got in the end zone. He looked faster. I still like him. I'd still have to have him in my lineup.
You agree?
Yeah, I agree too. I think they used Derrick Henry more towards the end because they were kind of just close things out. They didn't want to risk a DeMarco Murray injury because he's getting up there. He's
Yeah.
getting up there.
Yes,
They want to
sure.
preserve him.
29.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty old for a running back. So I would say they used Derrick Henry at the end, kind of fed him a little bit, and then he just had that breakout touchdown, like you said, garbage. Derrick Henry is a good handcuff to own though. If you do have DeMarco Murray, you never know.
Yeah.
Murray could tweak a hamstring. Henry's got all the
Either
volume.
one
right,
of
Pete?
them goes down, the next is going to just
Right.
be,
Exactly.
top 5 back.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. Also, the quarterback, Mariota, didn't look like he was running around too much, but I think they'll ease him into it as he goes forward.
Totally.
And I think he's a pretty good starting option going forward. The last guy I want to touch upon here, T.Y. Hilton, 1.7 fantasy points in standard leagues, only 1 reception.
Yeah.
What happened?
Sad.
You know what? I don't know. I
It's a
played
good
him,
matchup.
and great matchup against Tennessee.
Mhm.
In my case, I didn't need him to score, but if I needed him to get, even like 50 yards, 5 points in standard, and he can't, what do you do with this guy? He's got me going nuts.
I mean,
over
think
here.
about it. If you were tied and you had T.Y. and your opponent had Ryan Suckup, you got blown out of the water.
Exactly.
You lost by 20 points.
If your opponent had, who knows? If he had Dante Moncrief going, you lost.
Right.
It's true.
You
Yeah.
can't get outscored by the second or
So
third
what do you do
wideout.
with T.Y. going forward? You still playing him even in tough matchups?
In my spot, if you can, I would try to get rid of him, but because Luck's not coming back anytime soon.
Right.
No timetable. It's just a headache. If you can get rid of him,
It
get
is.
rid of him. If you have
It's
to
a headache.
keep him on the bench unless it's a
Any
good
last
matchup.
thoughts on T.Y.?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he'll have those big games. He's very
For sure.
matchup based,
Exactly.
but it was disappointing to see him do that against a Tennessee defense who's
Not
really
too
not that
good.
good. So
Right.
he had the matchup there, but he just didn't produce.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Remember to follow us on Twitter at FNTSY Philosophy and check out our YouTube page at Fantasy Philosophy. And we'll talk to you soon. Use that as our closing. That was a better closing.